All right, my friends, we are just about ready to begin. We are going to continue the laws of Boirer, and Mitzvah Hashem move on to the laws of Schita. So, thank you. So we're going to start with it's Iftes in the Alter Rebbe, which is, I'm not reading inside, but if you want to follow inside, it's in there, Shin Yutes Test.
Shin Yutet?
Yep, but I'm doing it from number 37 of last night's handout.
Shin Yut.
So basically, there is a question about removing the husks of certain foods. Like, for example, the grain has husks on it, and there is a machlokes if you're allowed to remove it with a double shinui. First of all, you're going to do it by hand, and you're going to do it with your rosh etzba'osa, with your fingertips. And
With the fingertips.
Exactly, it's a double shinui. It's normally not done by hand, and you're doing it with the fingertips. So, and it's only ma'at, only a small amount. A few shinuyim together. So some say it's allowed, and that's how the Machaber paskins, and some say it's not allowed. That's how the Ramah paskins.
So it will be this product will be only dash. There's nothing to do with water.
No, this is dash. Correct. Correct. Now the Maisa, another example of this is, we don't really have this, but the halacha says it, so we're learning it.
So Robert saw the peanuts, it's probably the smallest candy.
That's no problem.
There's no problem.
No.
But it's the same action sometimes you do with your.
Yeah, but that's edible. That's edible. So the example that he gives is the green shell on top of the regular shell of a nut, which we don't really see in our nuts the way they come to us. But that particular shell is an issue of dash, whereas breaking open the actual shell of a nut is not an issue of dash. And we discussed last time when we learned this that basically the things that are processed in the field are considered a dash issue, and the things that are done at home are considered more of a boyer issue. Meaning to say, to take off the peels could be boyer, could be mutter. Meaning to say, if you do it right before you eat, so that's derech achila, even though you're removing the bad from the good, but since that's the only way you can get to the good, that's derech achila, that's the same way as peeling a banana.
So it's mutar,
So it's mutter right before you eat.
Tracking the green shell also.
We don't get it with a green shell. But if you would, that would be mutter. What you're not allowed to do is to peel off the green shell. That would be dash. That would be dash. So,
But this green shell is edible?
no.
That's the husk.
Yeah.
So if we were talking corn, that's that green.
Right. But I don't know if that
They sell
applies to
corn
them.
that way.
They sell corn that way. Most people get corn. I mean, if you're getting corn on the cob, you want it with that husk. It protects it and so on. So that's, I don't think it's an issue. That's a boyer issue.
Right.
Can't take it off in advance. I mean, usually you take it off before you cook it, but I'm
Right.
just saying if
There's
you're,
no derech achila issue over there because you have to cook it.
yeah, usually you take it off before you cook it, unless you're eating it raw. You could eat it raw if it's fresh. Mamish fresh corn you could eat raw, but that's not so usual. Anyway, the bottom line is that when it comes to removing peas or beans from a pod, from like, peas come inside a shell. So you could have the same issue of dash with those beans, those peas, or any beans like that.
But those kind of bean and peas, they're not edible unless you cook them. So
That's true.
what are you going to do with this on Shabbos?
That's true. It's rare to have this shaila because peas are not edible. What are you going to do with it on Shabbos? I don't know what kind of beans are edible raw that you could have this even apply.
Edamame beans.
Endamame, that's true.
Which one?
Endamame.
Edamame, but I think you want them raw. Do you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you eat them raw. Maybe you soak them. Maybe you soak them first.
So that would be but that's their chachila for sure. You take it off, you eat it right away. You
You like
don't
to
eat
soak
it
them?
any other way.
You like to soak? You allow to soak it with water for eating that Shabbat?
Let me see. Endamame beans raw.
By the way, the chickpeas with the white skin, like the same as the peanuts, yeah?
Yeah, they're also edible. And the mame is poisonous when raw. Sorry.
We don't do it.
What's poisonous when raw?
And the mame.
As in the beans?
Yeah.
They're soybeans.
Yeah.
It's poison?
So they're free
Found in raw bean. Yeah.
boiled or
I
something.
guess they have to be cooked. All right. Now you know. Okay, so don't need it raw.
Can you see a picture?
The Maisa,
Edamame.
if the husk is something that is also edible, then it is a limud schus. It's a limud schus. It's not pashut, but there's a limud schus to remove it because since it's edible, maybe it's not considered dash.
So don't be the water, because it would be the one you want.
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. But because most people don't eat it, it's still not lachatchil.
The pots are boiled or steamed.
How about it? It's a poison? Sometimes
Raw.
sometimes I eat that.
Raw.
Yeah, it's a couple, take a bite.
Okay, just don't sue the company. It says here a woman sued Tesco
Oh, really?
Yeah.
over endamame being she undercooked. That's just the headline. I don't know. I don't know what else it says. Okay. Anyway, Lamaisa, another heter is, Alter brings this, that the whole thing with dosh is when the thing that you're removing is like stuck to the thing that's inside of it. Like you have the green husk over the nut. And like when you have another example of dash is the milk inside an udder of a cow. So it's like mamish, it's mamish in it. It's like part of it. But if it's like a nut that is not connected, that's just inside there, but you could shake it around. It's not like mechubar, it's not connected to it. So that's another heter why it would not be dash, but
Is
only
peeling
a
a banana
boiler
a
issue.
problem then?
I'm sorry?
Is peeling a banana a problem?
Peeling a banana is not a dash issue because it's something that's normally done by the consumer and not by the producer of the fruit. But it's a boiler issue, meaning to say you can only do it right before eating so that it should be derech achila.
So how does dash work? What are the basic rules of dash?
The basic rules of dash, as is evident from this seif, I mean, we didn't really learn that much about it, so I'm just sharing what it seems from this seif, is that it's removing the inedible husk that is attached to the food that is underneath it, that is normally removed in the field. That is basically the definition of dash.
So basically, whatever we get from a supermarket is not a problem.
Pretty much, yeah. Unless you go to some kind of natural supermarket where they sell, raw products or whatever, go to the farm or whatever. But if the normal products that you get are not going to have these things, because that's the whole definition of it, that they are usually removed for the consumer.
So we used to have a macadamia tree in our back garden, and we get nuts that had the green skin around. You
Right.
peel that off, and then you have the hard brown nut, and then you crack that, and you get what's inside.
Exactly.
So
you
green
can't
skin would have been the
that
problem.
green peel on Shabbos. You can crack the nut together with the green and get to the nut as long as you do that right before eating.
You want to
Oh, okay.
That you can do. You can't just peel off the green. That would be the nafkamina from all this discussion.
So any of these things, even a coconut that has the green stuff around it, if I take a hammer and I smash the whole thing in one go,
Exactly.
it's not a problem. Okay.
Exactly.
So you're saying that if you peel the green off of the coconut or the macadamia, that would be dash on Shabbos?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Never thought of it with a coconut, actually.
Get the milk. Milk is loose. I'm going to now just to the cow.
No, it's not like a cow. It's not like a cow. Because here it's just sitting inside. Sitting inside. It's not considered like you're extracting something from inside. It's not even connected to it. It's just sitting in there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, are we talking about the milk or the flesh?
The milk.
The flesh is connected, isn't it?
The milk. I'm talking about the milk. The milk. There's no
Even
issue.
brown coconut is a problem, isn't it?
Considered like schita or dash or anything. Because it's just sitting there.
But the flesh is connected to. It's not like a nut. The flesh is connected to the outside bit, the brown.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting shaila. That would be an interesting shaila. I don't know if you're allowed to take off that outer shell.
Unless you're doing it for the milk.
In that one action, there.
One action, yeah, but then how are you going to get to the meat? One action.
So getting to the milk is not the problem. It's the flesh.
One action is going to get you to the milk, but if you want to get to the flesh, you're going to have to peel it at some point, unless you
Find someone who likes the milk.
Yes.
Yeah, unless you scoop it out.
It's not
Scoopable. It's not scoopable.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Rabbi, if you break it, it will fall apart.
Yeah, but you still have that skin, the outer part. It's not like melon or anything like that. It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
The skin it's outside, and the inside, if you give a really big hammer, it can fall apart.
Yeah, but
Some of them.
there's
I
still
don't know
gonna be
all of
skin
them.
on it.
No.
I don't really know. I don't really know.
The skin, you got the brown skin, and then you got the white, right? And then you got another layer,
green.
and then the air
So
outside.
the question is about the green. The question
Green on the
is to
outside.
peel off that green,
Big
that big outside to get to
What comes
the,
off the tree.
because they don't sell it with the green.
But
So maybe
Drops
peeling
from-
off the green.
Actually, you usually buy coconuts for milk with the white.
the liquid's easy.
So they don't.
With the white? What do you mean the
You still
white?
have to get the
So
white.
inside the green, there is a white. It's a bit like pith. So you have the green, and then inside the green, it's white and spongy until you get to the brown nut. Then you have the brown nut, and then you have the flesh, and then you have the milk.
Right.
And when they sell coconuts for drinking, for the milk, they usually sell it in the. They've taken off the green, but they sell it. I'll see if I can link a photo.
Right.
Yeah, but they do. But they usually still cut the green part so it'll stand up. Because I've had this, so
Right.
there is a certain kind of preparation that they do to it.
Right.
How about if your initial one action was to get the liquid, now it's already kind of split out.
Yeah.
At that point, would you still have the dash issue? Because now it's already broken, but it wasn't broken with the kavana of getting the.
It's like a reverse dash.
Yeah, it's like a reverse dash.
Taking the food from the
Right.
So
So
thing.
once you're already in there for the liquid, then what's its status?
If
It's already broken.
you take a hammer and it goes, why you cannot do that here? Rabbi? It's the same.
No, because the agos it's a thing that it's normal for a consumer to remove. But the
The green
It's the
right
same thing. You
green,
have to-
no, the green of a coconut you never see in the supermarket. You can see it in your tree.
Right.
Right,
You
it's
see when
super.
coconut falls.
So it's like a process that's normally done in the field.
So to cut it off, you loud.
Yeah.
And then you can scoop it.
You can scoop it. Yeah, you can scoop it if it's possible.
You can't break it up.
You can't peel it. You can't peel the green
What
from
if I
the.
cut
So
it?
it's gonna scoop that.
Rabbi,
You can do, but you can can just slide the
It's
white
not so
out
easy. It's not so
with
easy.
a knife. It's like you just do watermelon. You
Yes.
don't cut a
Yeah,
watermelon.
yes. Maybe it's hard, but some of them is.
So I don't know what's I put the coconut bean in it. Going on the fruit to how they need it.
You can cut it to
I
4
can see
pieces,
the
Rabbi,
coconut,
instead
it's
of.
something scooped, but
You can break it to 4 pieces instead of.
Yes, he sent a link. Yes, he sent a link to see what it looks like. So if you go onto the shear, you'll be able to see that link. Okay, very good. I hear it. I see it. It looks familiar now that I'm looking at it, that white-looking thing.
It's not so bad.
It's just
That can get inside the green.
Yeah, see?
this white.
That's how they typically sell it if it's for milk. I think because it's a young coconut and that keeps it fresher.
Yeah, then they just make a hole on top. The green is off. There's white. No.
It's all,
No.
you change the channel. It's Rabbanim.
Oh, Rabbanim, nice.
They have a party.
You're looking good.
Yes.
This is it. Anyway,
This is professional, remove that. It's only in England they do that.
That's how they commonly sell coconuts for milk over here.
very good. Okay, so I'm going to stay with a little bit of a question on the coconuts, but it seems that you shouldn't be allowed to peel off the green. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about using water to separate. Using water to separate is a problem with boirer. Meaning to say you cannot put fruit or vegetables that have visible dirt on them to soak them in water in order to clean the water, the fruits or the vegetables. That is like using a keli, because that's one of the designated ways to do boirer, and that is forbidden. Maybe even with our Isa, I think. Now, when it comes to washing fruits or vegetables by hand, so there's two reasons to be lenient. First of all, if there is no visible dirt on them, so what are you washing off? Things that are not really visible. So it's a question halachically if they're considered significant or not. So
What's an example of using water again to separate? I mean, you're going to soak a fruit in a bowl of water to clean it off.
Yeah. I mean, let's say you
Getting the bugs off something.
Yeah, let's say you got some stuff from your backyard, and it's just not clean. It has dirt on it. So you want to soak it to get the water off of it.
Unwashed carrots.
Unwashed carrots, yes, good example. Nice organic carrot.
But what if I'm not soaking it? Maybe I hold it under a sink or under a faucet. How's that different?
So that's where there's some room for leniency. So if there is no visible, let's backtrack a little bit from the case where there's visible dirt. If there is no visible dirt and you're washing it because of the pesticides or because of the bacteria and who knows, the handling and whatnot. So there's room to be lenient and to say that since it's not visible, it's not really so significant what you remove. And then there's another heter, which is not such a clear heter, but some say that what you're holding in your hand is considered what you are selecting. So when you hold it in your hand, as opposed to doing it in a bowl, there are those that want to be lenient, even if it has visible dirt, because it's like you're selecting the good from the bad. But not everybody agrees to that heter. So definitely, it would be better if you have an object visible dirt. Definitely better to wash it before Shabbos. Certainly not to soak it, even by hand. It's not. I'm not saying it out loud. Some are matir, but it's not pasha. Yeah.
One by one, the water doesn't get built because it's not just clean. The water coming out, but
Right.
just make it easier to wash.
Right.
allowed?
I think you are, but again, only if there's no visible dirt. Only if there's no visible dirt. Yeah. That's a nice heter, by the way. That's a nice heter. It's good to know about that heter. If you want to wash grapes with those bags that have holes in them, just makes it easier. So that's not considered boyer because the water goes in and goes out. In other words, you're starting with grapes and you're finishing with grapes. You understand? The water is going in and out, but it's not like the water was ever mixed in a permanent way. It's the same thing as what he discusses here with pouring wine through a strainer. Pouring water through a strainer that has dregs in it. So the dregs are the sediment at the bottom of the wine. They still have some flavor of wine in them. You want to pour water over those dregs so that the water will absorb some of the flavor of the dregs and come out. You're allowed. Even though the water is mixing with the dregs and then coming out, and it's a sifter and a strainer. It's mamish a kli hamiyuchad lekach. It's a kli that is specifically designed for straining. You're allowed because what you're pouring in is water. What's coming out is basically water, flavored water. So the fact that in between it gets mixed is a very temporary thing. That's not considered boyer. And is that like a dog in the background? What am I hearing there? Or somebody actually?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were talking. I was just not understanding it. Okay, sorry. No problem. Okay, so the point is that this is a nafkamina lemaisa. If you want to make fresh coffee using ground, coffee grinds, you want to pour water from a kli sheni over the coffee grinds, which are already roasted. So you have two reasons to be makel, kli sheni, roasted. I'm saying you can also be machmer because even kli sheni, if yesh bishul achar afia, okay, but let's say you're being makel on that shaila because based on two heter, ira mikli sheni, and it is already roasted. Lamaisa, you want to pour it over those coffee beans through a strainer and make fresh coffee. What about boyer? Again, it's no problem because the water is coming in and the water is coming out and it's just grabbing some flavor on the way. It's never considered that it's a real mixture. So that's a good heter to know about. Very good.
Oh, so in a sense, then you could use a coffee filter on Shabbos, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Only in this way.
In other words, you would have to, you take the paper and then pour the water on the coffee beans on the paper and let it go through, just like a regular.
Exactly. It has to go straight through. You wouldn't be allowed to let it sit and then remove the sifter, the strainer with the coffee grinds. You know what I'm saying? It'd have to be above the cup and it goes straight through and it comes out the other end and you don't have to touch it.
But even though it goes slowly through it, it's still
as long as you don't help it. You can't help it. You can't nudge it along.
Yeah.
Shake it a little bit or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. That's gets me around my French press problem.
Right.
You're only in place, please shiny, and you just leave it be. And then after you're done, that's the only thing you said. You can't move it. You
can't shake it to help it go down.
Obviously.
You could remove it, although I did see somebody. There's a fellow who sends me halacha a day. It's actually does a nice job. Rabbi Yaakov Goldberg, Yerushalayim. He's my competition. He has an online smicha program also, but we won't mention that. But he sends out a halacha a day. ShulchanAruchHarav.com is his website. So
how to do that, Rabbi?
I got this halacha a few weeks ago, and I just looked it up yesterday. And he also points out that you should not, when you remove the filter, you should put a spoon underneath it so the last few drops, as they're coming out, as you're removing it, the few drops might come out. those shouldn't fall into the cup because they're maybe it's considered by your movement is getting them out. You know what I'm saying? No, more like boyer, like you're
removing
shaking by removing, you're kind of shaking the thing a little bit. So those drops are maybe coming out.
So how do you get rid of the filter then?
No, he says just put a spoon underneath it. So what comes out is not intended, and you're not going to drink it.
Taking the filter out away.
Yeah. No, the filter is not sitting in the water; it's above the water.
Right, it's above
The only thing is that maybe you might be causing a few little drops just fall in.
The filter is above the water. There's airspace over there.
Exactly. He just says to put a spoon underneath it. That's his suggestion.
And then you just take it.
Then you just take it off. Yeah. Yeah, you can cut like this. You can cut like this, no problem.
Instead of this spoon, just move the cup, and if there's to start falling the cup, will fall the cup. That's not the issue.
No.
It doesn't touch
So I
there.
can
No
just
problem.
move.
It shouldn't fall in the cup. That's all.
That's it. So you can just remove the cup.
Yep. Correct.
Cut it to one. Take it out. You see?
All right.
What do you mean in part one here? We just remove with a spoon. That's how you take away the rinds, the grinds?
No, not the grinds. The whole filter. He says you should put a spoon underneath the filter as you're removing it, so the droplets don't fall down as you're removing it.
Oh, because with the droplets are just going to go to waste, aren't they?
Exactly. You want the droplets to go to waste. You don't want them to fall in.
Oh, I see. Because since you're moving it around, it would be like doing borer.
You're right. It might be considered like you caused it. I mean, honestly, if you leave it still for a few minutes and there's no droplets left, yeah. If you wait a few minutes and there's nothing left, I don't even see that as an.
But wouldn't that also just fall under, I think, like Pasichresha de lo Nichade or to Davar Shalom Eskaven? So
that's the issue. If you have the spoon there and it's not falling in, then it's lenichale. But if it does fall in, hard to say it's lenichale. I mean, it's a small amount, but you will drink it. So you know what I'm saying. That's the whole point of the spoon, that it shouldn't lenichale. You shouldn't get any benefit from it.
Or just remove the glass. Or,
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so here's a nice point, and that is that you're allowed to strain something if it doesn't have to be strained. Exactly, like water. If you want to just make it extra clear, it's already clear, it's drinkable. Most people would drink it. Maybe a person who, very particular wouldn't, but most people drink it. You also would drink it. But today you're in the mood, you want extra clear water. That's not considered bar. You could do it even with the kli hamiyuchad lekach, because that's like nothing. On the other hand, if it's something that most people would not drink like that, some people would, or it's like a shasat chak. If you're really thirsty, you would do it. So then you're not allowed to do it. Certainly with the kli hamiyuchad. If you use a different kind of keli, some allow it. The Rambam forbids it. Alter Rebbe says it's better not. So lemashal, for example, you have a strainer, an official strainer. So you can use it for wine that is basically drinkable as is, even if it has small pieces, but if it doesn't bother people, it's no problem. If you have wine that is a little bit cloudy and most people wouldn't drink it, only if they're very thirsty, whatever, you certainly can't use a strainer. Maybe you can use a cloth. However, the Alter Rebbe points out if it's white wine, you can't use a cloth because that's considered cleaning it. Also, if it's water, water with some kind of cloudiness or whatever that you're trying to get rid of, also you couldn't use a cloth because it's like cleaning it. 1 second. But if it's red wine, most poskim hold you could use a cloth. If it's drinkable, if you could drink it in emergency. So it's like a shinui, because using a cloth, not a strainer. But the Rambam says not to, and it's better to be strict. The Bal Nefesh is machmer. Yes.
The red cloud should be okay.
No.
You don't see the red.
No.
Okay. There's no color here. It's red.
Red is not pashut. Red, maybe when you put a wine on a red cloth, maybe it's like you're dyeing the cloth. That's tzovea.
If this cloth it was used before Shabbat, and then you want to do it again, it's okay.
No, why?
Because there's no color anymore. Color and color.
Why not? אתה מחזק את זה.
How much it can be?
Rabbi Sim said you shouldn't use the red one.
That's what he's saying. A red cloth you shouldn't use with red wine. White cloth with red wine is okay. I mean, besides the issue of butter, but as far as Svia is concerned, white cloth is better.
But this that's not Melchila, she did it because there's a being that said that you shouldn't do it also on wine.
As far as butter is concerned, yes.
Right.
As far as Svia, if it's a white cloth, it's not Svia because it's lichluch. But as far as schita, that's another issue which we didn't discuss yet. Oh, it's not schita to use it, but when it comes to white wine or to water, there's another problem with using a cloth that you might squeeze the cloth afterwards.
Because you don't want to
And squeezing the cloth is going to be a problem of washing it. When you squeeze water out of something, or white wine, which according to some is considered also something that's used for cleaning, so that's part of the cleaning process.
So you're allowed to put the cloth in your mouth and drink it?
No.
This is called squeeze?
Yeah. Okay. But when it comes to red wine, and squeezing red wine out of the cloth is not cleaning, because that's not how you clean. You don't clean with red wine. The only issue with squeezing red wine out of a cloth is dash. There's two issues with, in general, squeezing, right? One issue of squeezing cloth is that it might be cleaning. One issue of squeezing cloth is that it could be dash. When you take out a liquid that is embedded in a solid, like we said before, milking a cow, that could be dash. Now, if you want the liquid, then it's an Isra Mid'oraisa. If you don't want the liquid, it's a Malacha Shein Tzarich Legufa. It's an Isra D'Rabbanan. But because most people, when they squeeze out a strainer, a cloth that they use to strain, they're not saving that liquid. And even if they would, it would only be an Isra D'Rabbanan. So we don't make a gzeira that you can't use the cloth because you might squeeze out the liquid, which you're not going to do anyway. And even if you would, it's an Isra D'Rabbanan. So that's the story. Yes.
Tell me, a baby on the day of Shabbos, it considers Parashat Sakana?
Absolutely, for 3 days. Vayhi b'yom hashlishi b'yosem koyavim.
Hashem bא לבקר אותו.
זה עוד פסוק.
Because the priest said like they take the gas and the wine and you let it drink. Shabbos, you also allowed to do it. And you know what I mean?
Interesting shaila.
But this why I asked if it's considered Parashat Sakana, if you're allowed to do it.
Interesting shaila.
What was the question?
The moyalim, they put the cotton wool into the wine, and they give the baby to suck on the wine to keep him quiet, shut him up, and he shouldn't cry and make people feel sad during this wonderful, joyous occasion.
Kadam is dangerous.
One of my pet peeves is I can't handle the moyalim who start singing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov while the poor baby is crying. We can feel for the baby a little bit. It's okay. It's a good time to daven. You'll sing later, you know.
I saw some.
They want to pretend as if everything's perfect, Chas Hashem, that the baby actually cried. Anyway.
I saw some people that take the suder and they put it in the wine and
You take the what?
the suder, the motzets, and they put it.
Yeah.
Is better?
No, what the official minhag is to take the wine with the fingers of the moil, put it in the moil in the baby's mouth when he's saying and move the fingers like a shin.
That's what my father-in-law does.
Like a shin. Who's your father-in-law?
Rabbi Levi Sudak.
Ah, okay. He's a moil?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's a moil sheikh at everything.
Nice. Is it just a shin or is it a shin dalad yud?
I can ask
Okay.
if you're that interested. But I've seen he's done two of my boys, so I've seen him do it, and he does it with his finger and he moves it around.
Nice. No, I'm nominally interested. If you happen to remember, nothing major.
Okay.
But they also usually or sometimes put the cotton ball in and he sucks it from the cotton ball. I mean, babies obviously not mechuyev to keep Shabbos.
Sometimes you squeeze it to let the baby get more wine.
No, you can't squeeze it. Can't squeeze it. That's not a chodesh yesh b'lakana. That's just to keep him quiet. That's not helping him at all in his situation.
I have a question. This is a more practical one, but I'm not sure how much we've covered it. I understand you can't mop on Shabbos.
Yep.
And I understand that when something spills, let's say on the floor, you can put paper napkins on it.
Yeah.
But you don't squeeze them at all.
Right.
So what I generally do is I just put a pile of napkins on top.
Mm-hmm.
How does that actually work? Because I've seen some people do tend to not quite mop things up, but use their hand to move it around, etc. What are you actually allowed and not allowed to do in that respect?
Right. So let's talk about a few things. First of all, you're not allowed to use anything that when it gets wet, it bothers you, and you may therefore want to squeeze out the liquid.
A silk cloth.
You wouldn't want to use anything like shirt or pants. You know what I'm saying? Anything that would bother you, even a nice towel. When it comes to a shmata towel or rags or things that you would use anyway to absorb spills, so that in particular is not an issue. On the other hand, you don't want to use an item that's going to become so soaking wet that even by picking it up, it's going to be, it's going to be squeezing. So you want to use a large amount of either napkins or rags that you don't mind if they're wet, so that after it soaks it up, you can pick it up without squeezing it and then put it on the side or throw it out in the case of napkins.
So you're allowed to move those napkins that are soaked up on Shabbos.
Right. You shouldn't squeeze them purposefully, but you can move them, yes.
But if they're dripping because they're quite wet, you're still allowed to move them?
I used to say no, but I think when we learned this last time, I came across that as long as you do your best not to squeeze, that you should be okay. If I could only remember where I came across that.
Is that because it's a sick ratio, you don't really care much about it?
Pretty much.
It's a drabanan anyway, because you're not actually cleaning and you don't want the liquid that comes out?
Kind of, yeah, something like that. And it's not Sikresha L'Nichale and Klachayad. What else? I just don't remember where I saw it. That's the problem. If you can pick up napkins that are soaked, throw them out, even though some of the liquid will gets squeezed as you pick it up. Not seeing it in these far here. Maybe in the 39 Malachas, that may be where I saw it. No, I think it's in the 39 Malachas. 1 second.
It happened to come up last Shabbos, and I was thinking I should really understand this properly now.
Right.
Use adjustment to figure them out. Just in case.
Uh-huh. I hear you.
No.
Yeah. Something that's not going to squeeze it. You just pick it up with a dustbin or something. Just trying to find where it would be. I don't see it here in the Dirshu. It must have been in 39 Malachas that I saw it. So I'll have to look it up, but I won't be here next week, so we'll have to hopefully remember.
Oh, so you're not here all next week?
All next week, and the following week I'm only here on the Monday. Just need to give you the heads up.
We're doing the test the week after that.
It's Hashem, that's the plan, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm just looking through my notes here that I made on 320 when we learned it, and I don't see that I addressed that. So we'll have to leave that as a little bit of a question, but I believe it's mutter. Okay.
But actually swishing the paper towels around to mop it up better.
What do you mean by squishing?
Not squishing, moving them around to mop it. So I was always told you had to put it on top and let it soak it up naturally. You couldn't, say, use your hand to move it around so as to mop it up.
Use your hand to move the paper towels around?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Okay, because you might come to squeeze it.
I don't think there's a gzeira that you might squeeze paper towels because you have no use for paper towels. You're going to
Okay.
up.
All right. No, that's good. I imagine that it was a little bit more lenient than, the sort of thing your mother tells you when you're 12 years old. But
Right. Mothers are not always wrong, by the way. Sometimes they're actually right.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think you have to only put it down. I think you could move it around. Yeah.
We learn about the paper towel. It should be enough to take all the water, not too much water. It's a little bit water.
As long as you don't pick it up.
That's what I used to think also.
Right?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I came across last time that even if it's full of water, you could pick it up gently.
Oh.
Pretty sure that's what I came across last
But
time.
when you pick it up, it's dripping.
I know.
It's okay?
As long as it's not your intention and you do it the
Oh.
best you can softly. I'm pretty sure I came across last time.
If you cannot afford a good paper towel, when you pick it up, you break it apart.
That's also true. It's also true. But it's basically lo nichale You have no use for it. It's kalachayad. So it's like,
Okay, good to know.
that's what I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure, but I have to check it up just to be sure. That's also true. Yeah. Or use napkins or whatever. Okay, as far as filtering water with a filter in your pitcher, so we said from the Shemir Shabbos, if you are makbid to always do it, you should not do it on Shabbos. If you drink sometimes without a filter, then you are okay. When it comes to defining,
You let it sit a few minutes and you have like clear water. You have to use it on Shabbos.
that's what the Shemir Shabbos says, that if you are makbid always to drink with water that was filtered, then you can't do it on Shabbos. Because the fact that you're makbid makes it like, it makes it into boyer. Even though you could say, well, even though I'm makbid, but the Maisa, I can't see any difference. So whatever it's removing, it's totally invisible, and invisible things usually, right. So, but the Maisa, that's what the Shemir Shabbos says. So I'm not, and if they are only makbid to drink with a filter, if they're always makbid to always drink during finger, no, 90% is not always. 90% is not always.
So these filters you attach to the sink or the faucet, and it has like this little can, and the water is going through it. So you were saying if I use that every day, then I cannot use that on Shabbos.
Interesting.
Or is it just a pitcher you're talking about?
I'm talking about a pitcher.
Like the Brita water filter.
Exactly.
But even so, that's not because you're particular. If you went to somebody else's house and they just poured water out of the tap, it doesn't mean if you'd refuse to drink that, then you're particular. But if you would, yeah. It's whether you care enough.
Yeah.
But I guess there's room to be a meichel. Like that's, I guess, for a bal nefesh, don't you think? It's kind of.
What I'm thinking is that maybe it's different when it's attached to your faucet and you're not doing a specific action to filter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just need to turn it on. That's pretty much it.
What do you mean turn it on? Like
like there's a little like where the water comes down there right before the aerator. There's a little like thing you push which diverts the water through the filter rather than coming out through the.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I don't know. If you actually have to do an action like that, I think it's the same shaila as using the water filter. Because the Maisa, you're doing something. As if you just leave it like that the whole Shabbos. So I'm taking water, it happens to be filtering. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing a special action to filter.
Oh, okay. Well, that would probably be I'll just leave it on over Shabbos. Then that's
what I'm thinking.
That might be a way around.
That's what I'm thinking, because what I did see in the Yakut Yosef is that you could put an extra filter on your water. He's not talking about the brighter filters per se, but he's talking about an extra filter on your sink, because Lemaise, he says, it's not really removing anything significant because it's already been so removed so many times through so many other filters that whatever else is being taken out is not really significant. So I'm thinking that maybe in this case we can rely on that, since you're not doing an action to filter. It's just, just leaving it on. That's what I'm thinking. But again, I'm not 100% sure. It's not an issue of filtering, no, because there's really nothing there. It's just an extra chumrah. It's not really anything there. As far as washing the cloth,
Take over the water after you go to the garbage. It's not removable. Take all around. So that's something that you can.
I know people do it. Lemaisa, when you put water on a clean cloth, which the cloth is clean, so we have a machlokes if that's considered washing or not.
But it's only
Sorry?
It's right before the Yom Tov Shabbos. So it's not clean. It's not like the first fresh. It's really the first time you make it fresh in Shabbos.
Right. I mean, Lamaisa people do it. So Lamaisa, I'm sure they have reasons to be Mekel. I mean, it's not a Mekel, it's a Chumrah. Have reasons to be Mekel. But that is something to think about. The issue with putting water on a clean garment. It is a Machlekes Rishonim at the end of the day. Unless you say it's miyuchad lekach. There is a concept of miyuchad lekach, by the way. Anything that becomes designated for a certain use, when you use it in that way, it's not considered like you're cleaning it. It's considered like you're using it. That's one of the things about this whole discussion about the wine going through a cloth. That if it's a kliya miyuchad lekach, so like a meshameres, then it's not going to be an issue with cleaning because that's what it's used for. Understand? So maybe if you're miyached the cloth for this, you're going to throw it out afterwards. So maybe it's not really like cleaning anymore because it's just the usage of it. Yesh makom lomar. To explain the minhag. Okay. Sorry. Fresh wine and vinegar, by the way, Alter Rebbe says that because the pieces in it are generally edible, it has pieces. Fresh wine. No, fresh wine is one case, and new vinegar also. The way it is, I don't see pieces in our vinegar, but in those days, if it had vinegar, people would use it like that. It didn't bother them. So those things, like we said before, things that don't bother you, you're allowed to filter because it's not really a significant thing. Stop. We did say, though, that if you are using these different ways to filter in a permissible way, all these different things, you should not, when you put the cloth, you shouldn't push it down like you're creating a filter. You should just put it flat, and when you pour, so it pushes it down as you're pouring.
If you push it, it's okay.
No, as you're pouring, the liquid should push it down. You shouldn't push it down
the liquid you should push it down, but not you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you have wine and the wine has dregs in it, and you have a faucet on the bottom of the barrel, and the wine is coming from the top through the dregs out the faucet, you're allowed to turn on that faucet. You're allowed to use it to get the wine out up until the level of the wine is just above the dregs. At that point, you can't use it anymore because then you're going to be taking... No. Then you're going to be straining and removing the wine from the dregs. Now, the wine that's on top is not considered mixed. It's good. It's on easy street. The one on the bottom is the mixed one. So when you turn it on, the wine is coming through the dregs, but it's not mixed wine. It's like the same thing we said before when you're pouring the hot water over the coffee beans and the water over the dregs of the whatever. That's not considered an issue. So Lamaisa, once it's coming through on the bottom, then you are doing boyer. Now you're doing boyer the good from the bad, so you can still do it if you're going to eat it right away, but you can't do it in advance. So Lamaisa, this comes to a practical shaila when you have a water pitcher that has a little forked opening to hold the ice in. So as long as there's a lot of water in it, so the water is coming from the bottom. Here it's coming from the bottom. The water is coming from the bottom through the top, through the ice. That's not called filtering. It's not called boyer. It's just coming through the ice. And even though the fork is holding back the ice, or whatever it's called, those prongs, they're holding back the ice, but that's not considered boyer because you're getting water that wasn't mixed. On the other hand, once you used up, the liquid to the point that it's already the mixture part, where you have just the same level of water and ice, that's when it becomes an issue. Now, Rafael did show me last night, there is a svara to say that maybe that's mutter based on the opinion that says that liquids and solids are never considered mixed. Remember we said yesterday. There's an opinion that says liquids and solids are never considered mixed. So if according to that opinion,
you can always strain tea leaves.
You can always strain tea leaves, and slotted spoons are allowed, and tongs in the pitcher are allowed, no problem. But in other words, it's not considered a kli amiyuchad l'boyer because these are not an active boyer. It's not an issue.
So is it best not to put too much ice then?
Right, exactly. The more ice you put,
the
more you're going to have an issue sooner in the life of that bottle or whatever you call it.
But if you put the ice inside the water, not in the way on the top,
it's going to float to the top. What do you mean? Always going to float on the top.
Okay, so when the ice go all the way to the bottom, this is the problem.
Exactly. When there's only a bit of water left, so it's like considered a mixture.
Before it will be little bit, you can pour more water.
Yeah, for sure. Always add water.
Okay.
Yeah, and it should be okay.
What about if you're gonna drink it you're gonna drink it. I guess it's easier with cold drinks than with hot drinks anymore.
If you're gonna drink it quicker.
No, yeah, Rabbi was. Is it a problem with the cup?
If you're going to drink it quicker, it doesn't help you if you have a kli amiyuchad lekach. You understand? The fact that the jug is made with those little tongs in it to hold back the ice is a kli amiyuchad. Once you have a kli amiyuchad, it's not going to help you to do it, drink it right away.
Rabbi, if I have a cup, and I drink the water, and I put ice in the water, it's not a problem?
No
No,
problem.
that's not a problem because it doesn't have.
Why is that?
Because it's not a clean meal.
The clean meal part only.
Actually, you know what? I'm just thinking there's a heter from Shlomo Zalman about this. I wonder if it applies here.
Yeah, it's the same trick.
I wonder if it applies here. Shlomo Zalman holds. We had it. We said it in the beginning of the simon. Shlomo Zalman holds that any kli that is meyuchad for boyer, but is also meyuchad for a boyer that is done right before you consume it, is not a forbidden kli. He holds that it's only a problem kli if it's a kli used for a forbidden boyer. If it's a kli used for a permissible boyer, i.e. right before use, that's not called a kli amiyuchad l'boyer. Lamaisa, he says it about the salt shakers with the rice in it.
Right.
Some are machmer, but he says no, because when do you salt food? These salt shakers are not for the kitchen, they're for the table.
Table salt.
So when do you salt the food? Right before you eat it. You're not coming to the table, an hour before and checking it out and adding salt. So since right before you eat it, he holds it's not called a kli amiyuchad l'boyer because it's a derech achila sort of boyer. I wonder if that can't be applied to pitchers.
I mean, see what the difference between that and the salt.
Exactly. The whole point of these pitchers
hold
is
them back.
the whole point of the pitchers is for the ice, and the whole point of ice is if you can drink it right away. If you're not, it's going to warm up anyway. There's no point in the whole thing. We got to look into this. This is the sort of question the 39 Malachas would answer. The 39 Malachas book would address.
So we have an heter, right?
We have a possible heter, yeah. Not going to sign on to it just yet, but I think so.
It makes sense because.
What was the case again?
Just talking about a regular pitcher that has little tongs that hold back the ice from it, where it possibly, according to Shlomo Zalman, should be mutter because that's a keli that is always used for boyer immediately prior to eating or drinking. So it's not a regular boyer keli. Shlomo Zalman holds that a keli that is used for boyer right before you eat it is not a problem. So that was something to think about. Okay.
It's kind of like pouring through the dregs, in other words.
No. That was another heter.
Uh-huh.
Like pouring through the dregs. That was another heter. That's a heter if you have a lot of water in there. So the water is just coming through the ice, but it's not really mixed in with it. But the other heter is, even if it is mixed in with it, but because that keli is designed for using right before you drink, so maybe it's not a forbidden type of keli. That's what we have to think about. Okay, if you have cream on top of your milk, non-pasteurized, non-homogenized milk, can you remove it?
Do you want it?
Let's say you do.
Then there's no problem.
Just the cream on top.
Just the cream on top.
As long as you're going to use it immediately, there's no problem.
If you drink it, you drink it.
Let's say you don't want it.
And you're just trying to get to the milk at the bottom? Are you doing it immediately? Because there's no other way of getting to the milk at the bottom. So I'm going to guess that you can, because you can't actually take what you want. You can probably pour, it's probably better to pour the milk and out into another cup.
Here's what it says. Here's what it says in the Alter Rebbe. I'm pretty sure the Mishnah Berurah says the same thing. The top layer of the cream is not considered mixed. It's only mixed on the very bottom where the point of contact is. So if you want to remove the top layer, it's no problem. The bottom layer, if you want it, you can take it. But if you don't want it, you shouldn't remove it. You can just push it to the side and pour the milk out. But you shouldn't actually remove it.
Like with the cork with the wine, like this? Push them aside?
If you have a bit of cork in the wine and the cork is enough that it bothers you, then you could pour it out.
So you're really saying there's a certain like film of this cream on top of the regular milk, and that's the point where you cannot take that out. But anything on top of that film is okay.
It's one big layer. It's not a film. It's not a film. It's a lot. I mean,
in other words, there's a whole like a layer of cream under the lighter cream on top, is what you're saying.
I'm not saying it's lighter or heavier. I'm just saying there's the part of it that is not touching the milk, so therefore it's not considered mixed because it's totally above it. And then there's the point of contact where it's considered like a mixture, even though it's not really mixed, but because they're like so close to each other, it's halachically like a mix.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In other words, the point of where it contacts, that's where you cannot remove it. But anything above that's okay.
Exactly.
So you remove it or you move it to the side?
If you want it, you can remove it for immediate use. If you don't want it, you just push it on the side and pour the milk out.
If you want the top layer.
If you want the milk, you don't want the top layer.
You don't want the top layer, then you move it to the side.
Exactly. You don't
want
actually,
the top layer.
If you want it, you can take it.
You can take it.
If you're going to use it immediately, like boyer oichel. He doesn't consider it one min. I heard you were asking about maybe it's 1 min. He doesn't consider 1 min. Not sure why not. I guess because one is a liquid, one is a solid.
Cream's a liquid, really.
So it's like the eggs, the white and the yellow. One is kind of jelly, one is liquid.
How do you push a whole layer to get the liquid underneath? How do you write it to pitcher? Right, like pitcher, milk, and cream? What are you pushing with?
Spoon.
You push some and then the other goes right around the spoon, right?
Let me just read it. Make sure I'm giving you the right story. Yeah, gotta find it. Yeah. Mutter likleit. Shumanat safa be khalashkens met een mile. She gives him a hoy in exas met a machalo. Jalo be in het circle as the jam Shabbos. He doesn't actually say how to get to the milk if you don't want it. Doesn't actually say that. David asks, before Shabbos I poured chicken soup stock and matzah balls and lakshin and carrots into a pot and put it on the blech. And I realized after Shabbos started and I removed it from the blech that it needed some cups of water added to have the proper consistency. But I didn't add any water because I thought adding cold water from the sink could be considered heating the water if the water gets hot at all. Is this correct? Well, if it's a kli rishon, you cannot add any cold water, no, because that's going to cook it. If it's hot, if it's hot, you can't add any water. Certainly you can't add any water and put it back in the blech because that's cooking the water. So the only thing you can do is you can add water if it's cold, but then you'll kind of have cold soup. So I guess that wouldn't really help you. Okay. Yeah, the short answer is I don't know. David Leib? The short answer is I don't know. The long answer is I don't know.
Well, a big spoon.
A big spoon.
Big spoon pushes it out of the way, and you get the milk, and you hold back.
Yeah.
And you hold back the cream. Pushing it out of the way isn't the same as making a dam, right?
Yeah.
Holding it.
Yeah.
Where is it in the Mishnah Berurah? Is it in Shinyut Tes?
Shinyut Tes, yeah. I wonder why he doesn't say. I mean, Yossi was saying that it should be like derech achila to just remove it, like the peel. But he doesn't say that. Should be in Shinyut Tes. Yeah, let me see where.
Do you know where? Because it's a big one.
So if that's the case,
Yeah.
both of them are the same, whether you want it or not.
I've got the opposite. Fat forms a layer that rests on the gravy. It says a common application regards yogurt or sour cream, which comes with a layer of liquid on the top. Hilchos says it is forbidden to pour off the liquid, since it's removing the psolis from the oichel. If the surface of the yogurt, so there's Orchos Shabbos says if there's the surface of the yogurt is smooth, so the liquid floats on top and is not mixed, one may pour it off, because then it presumably it's because it's that's a liquid. Odd.
Here he answers your question. It's in 62. It's in 62, yes, in the Mishnah Berurah, the discussion about this. Here, he says, even if the only way you can drink the milk is to remove this fat, and your intention is removing the fat is to drink the milk, why is it not like removing, the Mishnah Berurah said if there's a stack of fruits, and the only way to get to the bottom fruit is by removing the top fruit, you can do it. So why is it not the same? He says because you have to be very precise when you're removing the fat to get all the fat and leave the milk. So even though your intention is to get to the milk, but it's still considered boyer because it's like you're fixing the milk at that time. You're fixing the milk. In other words,
What does boyer have to do with fixing?
that's what you're doing when you're boyer. Something is mixed up. It's good and bad, and you're making it edible by removing what you don't want. So he's distinguishing between this and, let's say, when you peel an orange. When you peel an orange, I mean, there's a peel, there's an orange. It's not a very difficult thing. That's considered derech achila. But if it's something that has some like I don't know, like peel that you have to mamish, like get just so, peel just the right amount. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's a problem according to this, because that's more like you're taking an object that is mixed up. It's not just a peel, but it's a mixture, and you're unmixing it. It's a chiddush. It's a chiddush, but that's what he says. I mean, it's not really his chiddush, because the Magen Avraham is the one that the Mishnah Berurah quotes, not ever quotes. The Magen Avraham is the one that says that you can't remove all of the fat, and he's talking about a case where you want to get to the milk, because if you want the fat, he says you're allowed to, as long as you do it right before. So the cases you're not allowed is when you don't want to get to the milk. He says you're not allowed. He's just explaining why. Okay.
Also, it appears that you need to use a case. And with this, it's not as if the spoon is an extension of your hand. It's being used as a keli because you could not do this otherwise. So it's not just because you don't want to get your hands dirty. That's from Igris Moshe.
Yeah, he brings that here. That's another issue. That if you use a spoon, you're going to be doing a better job of separating it.
Yeah.
So we said you can use a spoon if it's just not to make your hands dirty or to reach somewhere you couldn't reach. But if the spoon does a better job of separating, then it's like a kli. So the Mishnah Berurah says you can't use a spoon here. Okay.
Then it's asking, why is this different to peeling an apple?
So that's what I said. That's what I said before from the Shvisas of Shabbos. That here it's considered like it's difficult to remove. So it's more of a boyer act than a eating act. Does he say something different there?
No, knife does not. The removal of the peel from the apple, it only severs the peel from the apple so that it may be lifted. So the knife is not separating. It is removing. It is severing the peel from the apple, but the removal is done later by hand. If you want, it can be done just as well by hand. So that's how it says it's different. That's Igris Moshe as well.
I don't know about that. Removing an apple peel by hand is not going to go very well.
No. It's separating it into two. The knife is cutting, but not removing.
Nah, I don't know about that. Once it's cut,
I'm telling you what it says here.
Once it's cut, it's removed. I have to see that Igris Moshe. I don't think they're understanding it correctly.
Okay.
Once you cut the peel off the apple, it's not mixed in anymore. I mean, you would have to work very hard.
Yeah, to mix it. Yeah,
to keep it. You'd have to cut it very carefully to keep it together. I mean, that's not a usual thing. I don't know.
But it's also Shar Hatzion explains that since one does not remove the cream but rather leaves a layer behind, or alternatively, you remove milk together with some of the remaining cream.
Right, that's another option the Mishnah Berurah says.
So if you peel an apple, is what you were saying, when you peel the apple, there's still going to be apple below the skin. So Are you saying that's not borer there?
You can peel an apple according to Mishnah Berurah and lots of other people.
Yeah,
Apples are different than other peels because they're edible.
that's true.
So many poskim say that you're not doing any active butter at all. You're separating between two parts of an apple that are both edible.
Uh-huh.
Same would apply to a cucumber and a carrot. Would not apply to, I don't know.
Well, the carrot skin's edible also. It's just bitter.
Cut them. You don't
I
peel them.
eat it.
I'm saying you don't use a kli amiyuchad lekach. That's what I'm saying. So things with an edible peel, many poskim are makel. Some are machmir though, because they point out that once you peel it, you don't usually eat those peels. So, yeah.
I've just discovered this version of Mishnah Berurah has summaries at the end.
Which
So,
version?
I'll show you. This version.
Mishnah Berurah, it's blue.
Yeah, it's a brand new one. It's just come out,
Oilam edition. Nice.
and it's got these.
Oilam. It's a blue one.
Who's the publisher of that one?
Olam.
Oh, like,
I'll look it up, but it's got these summaries which I think are very good.
Nice. Very good. Okay, so let us continue. Okay, pouring fat off the soup. The issue is actually I just want to go back to one thing you said about removing the fat, removing the cream from the milk. Mishnah Berurah says you can do if you remove some of the milk with it. And that's how the Alter Rebbe also passes in the Siddur. But I do want to point out that, in the Shulchan Aruch, that's what Alter passes. In the Siddur, he changes his mind, and that's based on the whole fly in the soup story, which we'll get to in a minute. So therefore, it's not so clear about the fat with some milk. You know what? Let's talk about that now because that's important.
The fat in the soup.
If you're removing some of the milk with the cream, or some of the soup with the fat, you know what I'm saying?
The cream is edible, no? It's fat if you want some people.
Yeah. But it's still considered a separate min from the milk. And the fat is considered a separate min from the soup.
It's still edible.
Okay, so two types of oichel you can't separate.
The fly in the wine is not edible.
Can't separate two types of oichel either. Can't separate two types of oichel.
Unless you want to eat it. If you don't eat it,
If you want to eat the fat, yes, then you can.
Hmm?
If you want to eat the fat, then you can remove it. Okay, Lamaisa. In the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe passes like the Taz that you are allowed to remove a fly from the soup with a spoon.
it's in the Shulchan Aruch.
In the Shulchan Aruch, that's correct. That's based on the Taz, as long as you take some of the soup with it. So he doesn't consider it an act of butter because you're not really removing just the bad. You're removing the bad together with the good.
How much good do you need to take with bad?
According to the Taz, you mean?
In general. So, you know, you've got it's almost impossible to take anything wet just by itself.
Right. So that amount is not enough to make it mutter, because then the Taz wouldn't have to say anything. We'd just say you could take it out, and there's always going to be some liquid attached to it. So that's not an issue because that's totally not edible. I mean, nobody's going to.
If I don't want the meat in the cholent, is taking out a piece of barley or one bean enough to say that I'm taking out the good with the bad?
No. No, it has to be like a significant amount around it.
So what does that actually mean? Like 50%, 30%?
I mean, Lemaisa Alter doesn't paskin like this, so I'm gonna evade the question like a good politician. The Mishnah Berurah paskin that way too. And the Siddur too.
Just significant amount, meaning not percentage, 10, 20%, but
Right.
it has to be that you're missing a piece, a good piece, you just throw away because of that.
Right. I hear you. Yeah. But and I do want to say also that even according to Alter Rebbe, if you take a very large amount away, then it's not going to be forbidden even according to Alter Rebbe on the Siddur. It's only when it's like a spoon with a fly, one spoon with a fly, where saf kol saf, it could be seen that the main thing is that you're taking out the fly, and the whole purpose of the soup is just to allow you to take out the fly. So that exactly, maybe a cup, or if you split it half and half, what I'm saying? If it's done in a way that it's not like you're taking out the fly. It's like you're removing a large amount of soup. That's another reason.
So even according to the Alter Rebbe and everyone, if you're being totally indiscriminate until you get out what you want, that's okay.
Exactly.
So if I just put my spoon in and take big clumps of fill the spoon as much as possible with bits until I've got all the meat out, that's okay.
Spoon as much as possible. No, the point is that it's not just a spoon.
Yeah, it's large and so you can't do it with a spoon according to the Alter Rebbe, even if you're totally indiscriminate.
Yeah, it's not about being indiscriminate. It's about I'm talking about a case where you're removing enough that it's not even considered that you're taking out one thing from another, because you're just taking such a big amount of stuff out. You know what I'm saying?
Is that like half of whatever there is, or?
It's a little bit subjective, so I'm not going to be able to say that. I'm just gonna say that if it's not seen like you're taking out a fly with some soup around, but rather you're taking out a whole bunch of soup that happens to have a fly in it.
Use a ladle to pick it up, so you have a full. Okay.
I don't want to say.
And a fly is no different to a carrot that you don't want.
I don't want to say something I didn't see.
Right.
I don't know.
To use a.
I don't know. Okay, so the point is that what the Alter Rebbe does say to do is to pour out the fly together, just to pour out the fly.
Using the liquid to pour it.
Exactly. Hold onto the cup and pour out the liquid, and the fly will come out with it.
Like the wine with the cork?
That is exactly, that's the heter according to the Alter Rebbe. And there's two ways to understand that heter, which has some nafkamina lamaisa between these two ways. One way is that when you pour out the fly, what's left in your hand is what he considers like what you're selecting, not what you pour out. And therefore it's allowed, because what you're keeping is what you want. That's one way of understanding the heter. And the other way of understanding the heter is that when you separate using the oichel itself, it's considered like a derech achila sort of separating. Even though you are separating, you're removing the fly. It's not that whatever's in your hand is what you're taking. You're actually removing the fly. But when you remove the fly through the oichel, that's considered like a derech achila sort of boyer. That's the other way of learning the pshat. And there are some nafkaminas, some differences between these two ways of learning. Okay, how did I get onto that? I don't remember. Pouring the fat off the soup will be the same issue. If you have fat on the soup, or the Alter Rebbe in the siddur, you pour it out. You can pour it out. Sorry?
Could be a very non-practical.
Well, you're allowed to blow it to be close to the side, and then pour it out. Same thing with a fly. The Alter says you can blow it to the side. You can't blow it out because you can't do boyer with your mouth either. But you can blow it to the side and then tip it out.
I have a suggestion for people who serve soup from kitchens. By the way,
Yeah.
if you're serving soup from the kitchen,
Yep.
it makes a lot of sense to pour your soup into a jug and then pour from the jug into bowls. It's a lot faster. That's how caterers do it when they're doing large amounts. They don't sit there with ladles.
Right.
And it makes it very easy if you want to pour the fat off, because the fat's all at the top, and you just pour it out.
Good to know.
And it's a cliché as well.
Right. You pour it into the pitcher, or you simply use the pitcher as a ladle?
Well, if you use the pitcher as a ladle, you'll end up getting drips down. But if you know how with a ladle you often drip as you're pouring in.
Right.
If you want, so you pour it into the pitcher, and then you pour from the pitcher into the bowl, and you can get it right into the middle.
Okay, that's interesting. Good to know.
You don't want to do that at the table.
So what happens to the fat then? That gets around the fat?
Well, it's very easy to pour the fat out because the fat all goes to the top. So if you pour slowly into the sink or wherever, the first inch is going to be fat, and then you can keep pouring from there.
Oh, I see. And then after the fat pours off, then you pour into the pitcher.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
No. You pour into the pitcher, and you can then get the fat away more easily because it's got a spout.
Oh, it's like the ice cubes then, something like that. You're holding back the ice cubes.
No, you don't have to hold anything back because the fat's at the top, so that comes out first.
Oh, I see. You just pour out the fat first, and then you get a different bowl, and then just pour the soup into it.
So I never have this problem because I always defat my soup before Shabbos.
Oh.
But the way to do it is like that.
Okay.
And when I was working in kitchens with caterers, I found that that's how they serve soup generally.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just finishing up here, the Simon. Yeah.
That I would warm up on Shabbos day. And I had it in the fridge, and now I want to put on the platter, but I want to take off the fat. How would that go?
Is that considered your question is it considered a separate min? Is that your question? And we see here that it considers the fat and the soup a separate min. I guess it's a separate min there too. Here it's not because it's a liquid on a solid, because on soup the fat is gonna be liquid too. So it sounds like just the fact that it's fat is already a separate min. So I'm guessing the same thing should be true. I mean, not really, because it's not before eating. I mean, if you're heating it up, you're not eating it for another while.
And if it was before you?
If it was before eating, then you would just take, I don't know how you could, but if you could take the meat from the fat, I don't know how you could.
There would be no way to take the fat.
Not really. It's not really derech achila. It's not like a peel or anything. I don't think so.
Well, that could be argued.
I mean, there's ways to get to the meat with that. It's not like it's covering it. Some fat here, some fat there.
No, I don't want it in my food.
I know, but I don't know if that's called derech achila. I don't think so.
What was the question?
To remove the fat before you heat up chicken or meat in a permissible way. If there's a
I
way.
think we learn it's okay to remove it.
When did we learn that?
If you want to eat the chicken, you cannot remove the skin.
No, the fat he's talking about. The white stuff.
Congealed.
If you can remove the skin,
Skin is edible. Skin is edible. It's part of the chicken.
Fat is also edible.
That is also.
Yeah, but it's not the same sort of thing.
You're warming it up and it's becoming part of the food.
Yep.
You are eating the entire entity of fat.
The fat on soup is also edible.
Yes, some people enjoy it.
Yes, indeed.
But the fat on chicken or meat is usually eaten, especially if it's soaked up by potatoes or rice or something.
Right.
Schmaltz.
Study only on the skin. I don't remember about the
Yeah. I don't have an easy answer. Okay, you can't separate the curds from the whey on Shabbos. You can't make cottage cheese, basically. And there's a machlokes about spitting into the wind, if that is considered zoyra l'ruach, if the wind is going to separate your spit out. The Ramah is machmer, and the Mishnah Berurah brings that others are mekel. They hold it's a malach shesach lagufa, and it's a psikresha le'nichale. So l'maisel out there is machmer, but there are many mekilim.
What's it separating?
You're just separating the. If the
Isn't it all
wind
the same?
breaks it up,
But it's all the same. So
that's
it's
exactly.
just being sprayed in different directions.
Exactly. So that's the question. What is the mahus of Zohar? What is the essence of Zohar? Is Zohar just that the wind breaks something up? Or is it that the wind helps you separate two different types of things? So that's why the Rishonim that argue on this say that it's not an issue, because you're not really separating anything. It's the same entity.
But even you're separating, it's like you don't want it anyways. It's like throwing out trash and it gets separated.
You're not separating two different things is the point. You're separating between, small globules of spit, but you're not separating between, like when you're processing grain, the whole point of Zohar was that it's helped you separate the chaff from the grain. So if that's what the essence of the malacha is, then that's not being accomplished here at all.
Yeah. So you're right. So there's nothing to worry about, really. It's just it's just being a bal nefesh in a sense, maybe.
Well, those that are mekel, yes, would hold that it's not awesome. True Eger. Yeah, he brings different shittas about it. He says maybe to be strict by roik, which comes from a person who grows from the ground, because we eat fruits and vegetables. But maybe water that doesn't grow from the ground maybe is mutter. Okay, so I feel like I didn't address a few of the issues here. The fat is an issue that we are left with a little bit. The tissue paper.
What did you not address with the fat?
I'm not sure about if there's a way to get the fat off meat or chicken. You don't want it.
Oh, you mean cold congealed fat?
Exactly. I'm not sure. And the question about those paper towels also has to be addressed. If you can pick it up if it's full of water. Right. Well, you're not doing it, not purposefully, schita, but if it's very soaked, if that's an issue of picking it up or not, because you're gonna
throw in the garbage.
Exactly.
So you might do schita or you might not do schita.
Right. You might do schita inevitably.
A ball or something on the way down.
No, inevitably, just the pressure of your hands. But I think
we talked about before that
I think it's
dripping and stuffing was not.
right. Right.
Question is, if you have pressure on your hands on the towelette, is that causing any moisture to come out?
Right. I'm pretty sure we said it was mutter, but I feel like I have to look it up again. And we'll have to continue in 2 weeks' time. However, I will not be here on the 21st. Tuesday, I have to go up to a wedding in New York. So we're going to continue on Monday. And then the 21st, I won't be here.
That's the last day of review.
Now, the last day of review, I'm going to try to ask Rabbi to do the test on the 28th instead of the 27th. Tuesday, that way we'll have one more day for review. The 20th, I'd like to get through 320 all in one day. That will leave us the 27th to do 321, and then no day for a general review, like just to throw questions at you. Maybe we should skip 321 and everybody does that on their own.
What's 321?
Don't skip.
That's Toichan and Lush.
Which wasn't that.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't that easy, but it wasn't that long ago either. Or
Would you
there's
be able to send a comprehensive list of what we need to study?
I believe I did that already.
Oh, right.
I believe I did that already when we just started the
Let's do
Chazara.
it the next Monday.
Check in my emails that I sent you. I'm pretty sure I sent it out.
Just the next Monday, and then
I do have another option, which is on the Monday we learn 320. On the next Monday we do 321. But I send you written questions just to review on your own. We don't have like
We had
a.
that extra week, but we could do it that Monday instead of that Tuesday.
That's true.
Monday to.
But I didn't want to go to the last.
Well, we said we were going to leave it as a buffer anyway.
Yeah, we did say that.
We did say that.
We're gonna
That's
say
true.
that.
Okay, so let's decide.
Maybe we could meet on a Sunday night also, if you have time to make up.
I'm sorry.
Maybe we could have a class on a Sunday night if that would work for you and the other folks, just to make up.
Okay, let's see if we need it. Joseph wants to know what is the best way to prepare. The answer is found in Masechta Megillah, page 6b. Yagaita umatzasa tamin.
No, then it says the memories on the memory sandwich.
Oh, that's true. But first you have to learn it. Hopefully you all learned it already. Okay, that's true. Yagaita umatzasa tamin and then daven.
What did we say? 27, 28?
Sorry?
Can we send the first?
Maybe.
Everybody is on the WhatsApp group, is that right?
No, her father's not.
We have the question.
What date did you say? We didn't do the 27 or 28? It's the
So,
following week. Monday, right?
I mean, I guess.
Right? Labor Day.
Probably, yeah.
I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah, it was-
When do you go to Uman?
When do you go to Oman?
Oh, September.
That's what we're talking about. That's the following week.
What day is the date?
I mean, if we delay it, it would be the 3rd.
Let's do the 3rd.
Okay, let's wait and see.
I'm not here.
So I'm happy if anyone wants to spend pretty much the whole day of the 27th in revision.
He's offering Chavrusa on the 27th during the day.
I think probably, because that's actually a public holiday in the UK.
That's actually what, a public holiday?
Yeah, which actually makes it more difficult because I've got my kids home. But I'm happy to spend well, we're 5 hours behind.
Right.
So I'm happy to spend the second half of any day of that day.
Ahead.
We're already the same sequence. So it doesn't matter.
Okay,
We started the-
very good. We'll reconvene in Mr. Hashem on Monday the 20th.
What's Hassan on the
Shabbat
21st?
Shmona.
Yeah, Yossi. This is Dan. I'd consider that. Yeah, let's stay in touch.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
I'm just telling Yossi. This is Dan. I'm just telling Yossi that maybe I'll do that for an hour or two.
Very good.
And I'm also happy to do the week before because I think consistent is better than all in one go.
That's
1 or 2 hours per night for the week before, if anybody's interested.
That's another thing I would say, Joseph, to answer your question. The best thing is just there's no shortcuts for reviewing. Just review from the Alter Rebbe, review the Mishnah Berurah, review your notes. If you want to look at a big Shulchan Aruch, a Yalkut Yosef, I mean, the more review you do, the best.
There's so much. Really, there's so much. If we actually want to know all of it, then it's probably a year worth of revision.
Well, it took us a year.
Yeah, it took a year.
It took a year and a half.
Yeah.
May 1st.
Shabbat Hashem, we pray, we practice, Yagata.
Somebody asked me the pshat on that Gemara. What does it mean? That Seyat, I mean, why can't we just say Yagaita Matzasa Taman by reviewing also? Why not? I mean, I know, but what's the pshat? Is it that some people just, it doesn't help if they review, they don't retain?
I mean, 101 they say.
So they used to do in those days. But maybe B'chol Zod, you need Siyata D'Shmaya.
It's not just memorizing, it's analysis.
Maybe, I mean, what else does it mean? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway.
Reasoning.
Anyone that's had a problem with this company, the